Welcome, Agile Summit climbers. My name is Michał Parkola, and I'm hosting this session with our amazing speaker, Luke Hohmann. Luke is the Chief Innovation Officer of Applied Frameworks and the creator of innovation games and the co-creator of software profit streams, among many other things. Welcome, Luke.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for coming. So before we begin, I would like to invite everyone to also check out other sessions during the summit, like perhaps the one with Joanna Rothman about shortening feedback loops. Check out all the talks at agileonlinesummit.com. Okay, let's dive in. So look, I had a question. So agile teams don't usually think about profit too much. When are they making a mistake, and what can they do about it?
Well, thank you for asking such a provocative question to get going. It's a great way to start the talk and the conference. Well, one thing is very practical. If you're working for a company and your company eventually doesn't have a profit, you probably won't have a job. So if you like your job, you probably want to work for a company that's making a profit. And I think that so there's a very kind of selfish reason about, why would I want to have a profit? I think more practically, though, there's an incredibly important interplay. The least agile, since we're at an agile conference, the least agile part of a software architecture is the business model that becomes encoded in the business architecture. So let me explain what I mean by that. Imagine that you're working for LinkedIn and you have user IDs. You typically have a user ID through your email address. You're paying a monthly fee on a subscription that's automated. And that's what we would call time-based access, right? You pay for a month, whether or not you use it. Now let's go to another company. Let's say that you're working for Adyen or PayU or Stripe or a payment processor. Well, that's a transactional model where the payment processor takes a percentage of the transaction's value. And just run that through your mind. I mean, you and I are technical people, and most of the listeners are going to be technical people. Those are very different architectures. Those are very different forces. Those are very different scale. Those are very different responsibilities related to GDPR and the retention of data and the responsibility associated with managing data. So the idea that we can make technical decisions in isolation from the business model, or that the business people can make business model choices without some input and awareness and engagement with their technical teams, is just false.
Yeah, so that's one approach, that if someone is not interested in profit, then this is the reason why they should get interested. But
yes.
there's often this other problem, and we touched on this problem in other talks as well. But it's a challenge. So like executives, they don't always look to agile teams, to software teams for input on business strategy. Like they have their ideas, they create a backlog and they assign the backlog. Of course, not always, but it happens frequently. So what would you say, what can a software person do to gain that kind of credibility to even engage in discussions like that?
Well, I think that part of that credibility is learning a little bit about what business people do and what the business people think of and what we mean when we think of profit. So I'm going to go ahead and share a few slides right now just to help frame the conversation. And then we can kind of think about this from the perspective of profit and why it matters, and then how we think about it. Well, let's start by why we need profit. We need profit because we want our businesses to be sustainable. And we actually think about this from Mother Nature, right? The earth, you can question whether or not humans are good for the earth, but you can't question whether or not we need the energy of the sun. Without the energy of the sun, life on earth as we know it wouldn't exist. Similarly, every business relies on a profit to sustain itself. I can't make investments in my future without, for example, a profit. And it's what profit is what drives sustainability. It creates a virtuous cycle between the business and the customer it serves. And of course, it allows us to create ongoing change and ongoing investment. I mean, the backlog is meaningless if I don't have money to pay for the developers to build the items on the backlog. So the interesting thing is when we look at pricing and we look at profit, setting the price is more than choosing a number. And this is starting to speak to the technical side of developers. A business model is a system, and therefore we need to use systems thinking to make and remake a set of interdependent choices. So let's actually teach